walls of the Capitol, they're scheming in the night, selling out our freedoms for a pocket full of spite. From the border to the heartland, the wolves are at the door, twisting truth and tearing down what our fathers fought before. But I'm a patriot source, standing tall and true, with a Bible in my hand and old glory flying blue. Ain't apologizing for loving this land. We'll fight the forces of evil with fire in our stand. God bless the USA, we'll never back down. Patriots for freedom, wearing that crown.
I love that opening. That
I
is
love that
fantastic.
I wasn't ready because I thought you were still going to play the regular opening afterwards.
No, I think
No,
we. I
it's
think
been
we
retired.
replaced it. It's been retired.
it's
We
been
I
need
am
to dust
not
it off.
sad.
No, I know SK hated the other buffer because it had her voice in it, which
I
is
can't
weird
stand it.
because her voice is literally on about 1/3 of every one of the shows that we do. But she doesn't go back and watch the shows, so she
Nope.
doesn't listen to her own voice. I love that song, and Guarding the Grid, the mastermind behind it, was telling me, and I may need to get some details. So Guarding, feel free to drop this into the chat for everybody, but it's my understanding that he's going to be releasing that song itself somewhere. Am I right about that, Guarding? Is that what you were saying? That song is actually going to be made available to people so that they can use it, they can do whatever they want to do with it, download it? Because I don't know if you guys know this, but he wrote it. He wrote that song.
I
And then
want to download it. Where can I
Well-
download it?
Guarding, tell us where we can download it. Drop it in the chat so everyone knows how they can find it once it's available, because it is fantastic. Sometime next week, but you're going to have to tune in. Okay, so apparently we're going to use this show to let you know the details of that. So we'll let you know the details of it, folks. We got a really, I think, really important show for you today. So a lot of times this show, we just kind of jump into it and we'll do like this splatter paint approach where we'll pull in like 4 or 5 different topics. Sometimes we focus exclusively on one topic. Other times there's 2 or 3 topics. Today, we're going to answer what I think is the most important question that has to be answered right now. Why Iran and why now? SK, you were going to say something. I saw you pipe up.
No, I saw that we had a new member pop up and then he put it on the screen. So thank
Awesome.
you for
Yeah,
becoming
thank you so
members.
much. Thank you so
Yep.
much.
And if I look weird, it's because I put actual makeup on. I keep looking at the screen and I'm like, why do I look like that? And I'm like, oh yeah, because I have like makeup on my face, not just like mascara.
I have no idea what that means because she looks the same to me. Maybe it's because I just don't pay that close attention to people. I don't know. But folks, we're going to deal with the most important question of the day. Why Iran and why now? And I'm just going to be frank. I'm just going to kind of lay it out for you guys. Coming into this bit of research, I have been one of those people who, you know, I've always just naturally kind of gravitated towards the idea of supporting Israel. Typically, it's been from a biblical standpoint. Over the last couple of years, I've kind of moved away from even the need to support them from a biblical worldview, because I've always understood that ours is a world governed by the aggressive use of force. And regardless of whether you believe in the Bible or not, fact of the matter is the neighbors of Israel have tried to remove them and dislocate them and displace them, and they failed. And I'm sorry, but a world governed by the aggressive use of force, if you can't beat them, that's your problem. It's kind of my perspective. But as I've been diving in deeper into understanding the threads that Donald Trump has been weaving through both of his administrations, from the first term into this term, and even some of the work that was done during the Biden administration as well, it has become patently obvious to me that what you're seeing play out in the Middle East right now is an entire strategy of global regime change. As a matter of fact, it's not just in the Middle East, it's happening all over the place. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how the Abraham Accords are the American system being developed in the Middle East. And we're also going to talk about SK's post from Monday. And that may be where we start, because these two are not separate issues. They are specifically tied together in ways that most people don't realize. When you talk about the NGOs and you talk about the networks that are funding the color revolution, you're talking about the same people that are out there propagandizing on behalf of Iran. It's the exact same people, same networks, same money, same machine, same people, same objectives.
Same agenda. That's right.
Same agenda.
Exact same agenda. So do you all remember, right, when we showed you a conference, a meeting that happened a bunch among the intelligentsia back in, what was it, November, October? That happened, where you had that moron from Michigan, one of the seditious six, what's her name? Alyssa Slotkin.
Slotkins, yep.
And that conference that she was at, right, when we were explaining to you what all of those people were essentially panicked over. They were waiting for the national security strategy to be released. But in preparation for that national security strategy being released, they already knew what it was going to say. They laid out what they thought it was going to end up entailing, which is why you saw Alyssa Slotkin and the rest of them, you know, commit sedition the way that they did, is because they already knew where President Trump was going with this global regime change. We talked about it with Venezuela. We talked about it with the arsenal of democracy when we brought that up, and how President Trump is securing the Western Hemisphere, and the arsenal of democracy has changed in the 21st century. It's not bombs and tanks and bullets and boats and planes anymore. It's other things, right? President Trump has been planning this for a very long time, and it's a direct frontal attack on the central bankers, the central planners, the global democracy crowd, because their goals, as SK and Lisa and Data Republican have laid out, I think about as clearly as you could ever lay it out, their goals under their version of democracy is the exact opposite of democracy. So
that's right.
It's the
nobody should be surprised. Nobody should be surprised.
Yes, it's the establishment. It's the deep state. Whatever, all these fake ass America First people that, you know, for some reason think that they can't support Trump over this Iran stuff. These are the same people that will go on and on about the deep state and the establishment and, you know, the shadow government and all of that. Yet they don't even realize that that's exactly what Trump is taking out.
Yeah. It is shocking to me how disconnected from reality the fake ass America First black pill crowd are right now. And I was just talking in the green room. I cannot wait. I'm just like salivating at the opportunity to crush these people in a couple of weeks. When Donald Trump and the Trump administration announced that we're done in Iran, I'm going to crush them. And you should be doing the exact same thing. I've got all their videos saved. I've got all the fake, ridiculous predictions about forever wars. I've got all of the arguments and complaints about Donald Trump betrayed us and promised us that we weren't going to be starting any more wars. First of all, he never promised that at all, you freaking morons. No, what he promised is that we weren't going to be doing forever wars. And in a couple of weeks, when this campaign wraps up, because it's already ahead of schedule, I will be going on a crush the idiot campaign to do that. We will be destroying these people and their credibility.
Well, Patriot Dad, what historical evidence do you have that makes you believe that you're actually going to be able to crush them? And trying to blame that, say that President Trump is getting us into more forever wars. Do we have historical evidence over the last year?
Yeah, we do, as a matter of fact, because these idiots are the same people who, when Donald Trump, the United States military and Israel took out the nuclear facilities in Iran, we're told that World War III was getting ready to start. We were told that we were going to be going in with boots on the ground, that we were going to be slaughtering hundreds of thousands or millions of people. We are going to be spending decades of U.S. treasure and blood and American service people. And 12 days later, we were done. 12 days. It went from forever war to 12 days. The same people. And I remember when I opened up my phone at 3 o'clock in the morning, the night that the special forces went into Venezuela and extracted Maduro, I remember opening up my X account and the same exact loser class of propagandists were saying that Donald Trump is taking us into World War III, that we were getting ready to start a forever war. We were going to go in and steal all the oil and we were going to have to put boots on the ground. There's no boots on the ground. As a matter of fact, he didn't even change the entire regime. He just removed Maduro to bring him home to face charges under the indictment that he's in. He still left most of the administration in place, and now he's working with them and helping them rebuild their country using their own money, which is exactly what he said he was going to do. So to your question, Nom, do we have evidence? Yeah.
We do.
As a matter of fact, I don't think there's a single shred of evidence anywhere that Donald Trump has done anything that even resembles a forever war anywhere at all in the entire world. Not one.
Yeah.
Not one.
No,
Do you know
well, you
how
don't. I
many-
mean, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, what gets me is them making such a big deal out of all of this. But Obama dropped a shitload of bombs when he was in office. His last year in office, his last full year in office, he dropped 12,192 bombs in Syria. 12,000.
Of course he did, because he was solidifying what's called the axis of resistance, the Iranian projection of globalist power in the Middle East. He was actually bombing our allies and taking out ISIS's competition, ensuring that Iran could project through their proxies. And what Donald Trump, sorry, let me back up. What Israel has done over the last couple of years has destroyed every bit of those networks. Destroyed it. But before we jump into that, SK, do you want to walk us through the post that you sent out on Monday? Because I don't think most people had a chance to read it yet. If you haven't, you should probably go do it. But Nom's going to pull this up on a screen share, and SK is going to give us a bit of a rundown on what it is that she's talking about. And then hopefully we'll be able to figure out how to tie that into the American system being implemented in the Middle East and what that means for the Middle East, what that means for Israel, and what that means for the United States, and what that means for the Don Roe Doctrine and the America First agenda. Because look, folks, what is happening right now in Iran is the America First agenda.
It is.
Yep.
100%. And
100%.
just for the record, Obama, during his 2 terms, his 8 years in office, dropped 92,030 bombs. 92,000.
A lot of bombs.
Almost 100,000 bombs dropped by Obama. So shut your mouths.
That's right. Shut your mouth. As a matter of fact, we have a good shut your mouth video for you in a little bit too, which I'm sure you guys will love. All right, pull this up. What is this? SK, tell us what we're looking at here.
Is this the correct thread, SK?
Yes, this is the one I posted Monday. I retweeted one of Jenica's little videos. If you want to play that first, it doesn't matter. It's all tight. There's multiple threads. If you go to this thread on my page, there are multiple threads throughout all of the threads. Data Republican puts threads in hers to referencing older ones, and we've done the same thing, making sure they all tie together.
Do you want me to play this video right here that I'm showing?
You can, or if you want to play the one that she posted first, the international actors involved in the State Department.
Which is where? This one here?
Go back up. No. Go back up. The one that says that one. Yeah.
Timeline of government at USAID? Okay.
Well-established agency. That quick recap of what is that timeline. So for the U.S. Agency for International Development, just to put it into scope and scale, it has been around for more than 60 years. It has had bipartisan support, strong bipartisan support. It has had earmarks in every budget. So this was a well-established agency of some 10 to 14,000 staff. $40 billion in procurement every year. We had all read Project 2025. We were somewhat prepared for this administration, and in other ways, not prepared at all. So, ahead of the inauguration, some groups, such as our Office of Transition Initiatives, which works specifically in countries and places that are transitioning from perhaps authoritarian governments or wartime into more peaceful and structured, hopefully democratic governments. OTI has been a major player, so they pre-organized because, as Danielle said, they had organized during the previous Trump administration to respond to threats to our U.S. democracy. Also terribly organized that I'm proud about is our Gender and Sexual Minorities Employee Resource Group.
Oh, Jesus, shut up.
We
Oh, you have no idea. I've listened to days
are
of
a
this.
cautious
It's
community
ridiculous.
and well prepared.
You don't have to play the whole thing. I can
for
just tell you what it is, and if people want to listen to
Okay.
it,
Yeah, I
can.
can't listen to that idiot anymore.
The
Go ahead.
other
It's
ones
okay.
that the ones I posted are really short, but it was important for.
Okay.
She doesn't usually post long videos. It's a really important one. You should go listen to it. Also, be prepared, because after you listen to enough of these things, you hear the words that they use to, like, as their dog whistle for their people. And then when you hear like left Democrat politicians speaking, like Tim Walz or any of them, or when you read posts on X, you see those dog whistles, and it, like, you have a visceral reaction. It makes you want to, like, hurt somebody. But anyway, so in that video, that is a meeting, and there are ex-USAID employees describing how before January 20th, they took all of their internal groups where they were talking between each other and planning and, doing their jobs to encrypted signal chats so that they could fly under the radar of the Trump administration coming into office. They did all of that before he came into office. They were already prepared. They knew he was going to be gutting things. They knew he was going to be cutting all those DEI things. And they were trying to hide all those programs. Remember when he first took office, they kept saying, okay, well, this office is still open, but they just renamed it something else. And they were hiding those types of things under, like, disguises. That's what they were doing. And they were talking to each other on Signal. They openly admit all of these things. This is, their color revolution. This was part of it. And then, so we all know that they also reference in that video, they frame it as, quote, a global anti-authoritarian movement, connecting U.S. officials with colleagues from around the world who have dealt with this directly.
So I have a
reference-
question. A global anti-authoritarian movement. The problem that I have with that is the countries that they are aligned with and getting their funding from are the authoritarian countries.
But
They
no.
are China. They are Iran. They
Stop
are
it.
Venezuela.
Those are free
Well,
democratic societies, okay? Those are
In-
like utopias.
In fairness, I was actually reading Data Republican's article that was posted today, and she brought up some really interesting points that a lot of the same people who are engaging in color revolution in the United States and have been doing it all over the world, talking about their version of democracy and implementing it, have been verbally critical of Iran for a long time. Verbally.
Yes.
But they
Okay.
don't actually do anything about it. And I'm
Well-
going to show you why here in a little bit.
But that's the thing, you guys. These people, everything that they've always stood for, Donald Trump isn't a Republican.
That's right.
Donald Trump is a populist, and Donald Trump's doing what's best for the majority of the United States and for the United States and our Constitution and American values and preserving our sovereignty. And these
He's
people
doing
that
the American system.
Yes, and these people that are always talking about democracy, and Donald Trump's a existential threat to democracy, and he's authoritarian, and he's a dictator, and blah blah blah. These are the same people that execute regime changes covertly in other countries, in Africa, in Ukraine, Serbia, I think is one of,
Mhm.
there's a whole list.
Kazakhstan.
Yeah, there's a whole list. And so these people that are pissed off about regime change in Iran, first of all, they don't even understand the whole purpose of us being there. But also, regime change is just like a bonus, like, because our country can't be safe with that regime in place. Also, taking down Iran, it takes out all of our adversaries, basically. It's going to force everyone into not coming at the United States. It's going to push Russia into having to come to an agreement with Ukraine. That these people don't want this. They want to selectively, covertly do these things. Donald Trump is protecting our country and preventing them from coming at us and causing problems here because, death to America. He's delivering death from America before they can have death to America. And these people are pissed when he's talking about regime change because he's doing it out loud in front of the camera. There is no, we have the CIA in there and they're paying, artists to sing songs to get the youth worked up. And they're putting these programs in schools to teach these kids these things. And they're brainwashing people so that they overthrow their government. They're not doing these covert operations. Donald Trump is straight up saying, yeah, we're blowing your shit up. And then you're going to pick a leader that's going to be friendly with the United States and is going to be good to the people and is going to stay peaceful with your neighbors in the Middle East and be a part of society. You're going to be a part of society and act like you've been in public before.
I want to address this.
I accidentally got rid of it.
I think we're going to need it. Yeah. I want to address this comment because I think let's clear something up real quick. The new American order, as Family Crest calls it, the American system, as I'm going to refer to it, is not a system designed around United States global dominance like we've ever experienced before. It is not a nation building system. It is not a system where we are the world's policemen. That's not what the new American system looks like. And I don't want us to get confused when we hear about an American system being implemented. Maybe the name of it is probably a little bit confusing. It is not a domination by the United States. It is a cooperation with the United States system. It is specifically designed to move away from this multilateral type of approach, this rules-based order, where the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, the Rothschilds, the central bankers, the Bank of London, these people determine the rules of engagement around the world, and then they operate it through different proxies. That's the globalist system that exists today. The American system is very, very, very different, but it is not a system where the United States dominates. It's a system where we cooperate with anybody that wants to cooperate with us. Instead of a multilateral system, it is a bilateral system. What do I mean by that? The United States agrees or makes agreements with individuals that sets up agreements that are in our best interest and their best interest. Set up an agreement with Venezuela that's in our best interest. Set up an agreement with Mexico that's in our best interest. Instead of these gigantic, entire global agreements where we are automatically forfeiting our trade, our income, our national treasure to better the world, we are focused on creating cooperation. Now, that is going to look very different in our hemisphere than it will in other places. An American system in the Western hemisphere is an American system where the United States, we dominate because we ain't letting anybody else come into our backyard to do anything that's going to screw us up. But in the Middle East, it is not a United States dominated system. In fact, it is a system that is designed to set up cooperation between Israel, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Bahrain, Israel, the UAE, Israel, eventually Iran. Those neighbors are cooperating and coordinating and respecting one another's cultures in a way that allows for growth and advancement in the region. That's the fundamental difference. So when you hear the American system, just think of it this way. We are currently operating under a globalist system. The globalist system is designed for a small group of people operating out of the UN, the UN, or out of the World Economic Forum, who are dictating the terms of engagement for everybody else. The American system says, we care about our interest and you should care about your interest. And we are going to help set up cooperative agreements around the world so you can protect your own interests. That's the difference. Does that make sense? Did I explain that well enough?
Yes. Yes. And I want to go back for 1 second to the regime changes that these people that we're getting ready to talk about and listen to some short clips of, because I can't do 5 minutes. I do hours almost every day. I can't. When they're doing these regime changes covertly, they're not doing it. They do it under the guise of spreading democracy, just like they push LGBTQ stuff in Africa. That was part of Project 2025. In Project 2025, they said, we aren't going to push this stuff that these countries don't want in their country. We're not going to force them to have DEI and LGBTQ, whatever stuff, and, trans care for kids in Africa, because they don't want that. That's not a part of their culture. They don't believe in it. They think it's a bunch of BS and they're not buying into it. When the United States is doing regime change, they're usually doing it for the best interests of big corporations in places where there are, assets like mining or oil or whatever. They're doing it for the interest of corporations. So these same Democrats that tell you that they hate big corporations and they hate all of these things, and Donald Trump's a threat to democracy, an existential threat to democracy. These are the same people that execute regime changes in other parts of the world for the interest of big corporations in the United States to be able to profit. That's what
right.
they do. They protect big business.
That's right.
And it has nothing to do with democracy. When they say democracy, it doesn't mean what you think it means.
No, democracy is socialism. I don't know how much more clear I can make it. Their version of democracy is socialism. It's authoritarian control.
Yes.
That's it.
And one
They've
of the
just lied
posts,
to you about the name of it.
yes. And one of the posts that I was going to work on was actually how they take language and they manipulate the language in order to change the meaning of words. And I have this whole study that they did that they've been working off of through this United States regime change. They did this study and they take these words and they see what words resonate the most with the most amount of Americans. And there's a whole list, and some of them resonate with like academics, like, liberal academics. And of course they use those, and then they slowly work it into the lexicon by repeating it over and over and over again. And then people are using these words that they don't even really know what they mean. Well, they've moved on to words like freedom and liberty and things like that. So when you see a website that's something about liberty, you can't assume that it's something that's a conservative or a libertarian leaning website, because there are hardcore communists that are now using like Liberty Hill and all of this stuff, because that's what they're taking over next.
No online miscellaneous 1846. Democracy does not equal democratic control. Democracy, in the terms that it's used in pop culture today, equals authoritarian control. I don't know how else. They just basically changed the definition of it. Democracy, as we learned it growing up, is not the same thing that it is today. It's just, I'm sorry, that's just a fact. That's the way they've perverted the term. That's the way they've perverted the understanding of it. Democracy does not equal democratic control. It equals authoritarian control.
I think what they mean is actual Democrats.
Oh, I say defending democracy. Think of defending bureaucracy or globalism, because that's exactly what it is.
It's the system. It's the bureaucracy. It's the agencies. It's the establishment. It's the norms. When we know that for how many decades the norms have been cesspools of fraud and corruption and all manner of other things. Epstein's and trafficking and everything. There's not a single color revolution that I can think of that was not accompanied by a bunch of these entrenched establishment insiders and everybody in their families getting rich as fuck in the process, right? Which is the difference here.
Right. And all those big, huge foundations that are bankrolling all of this, and your tax dollars too, by the way, also funding partially regime change on U.S. soil, because Trump is basically Hitler.
Well, that's what I mean, right? All of these people, they all figured out. I don't know if it's like maybe one of their onboarding training classes when you get into into Congress, part of your onboarding is you get a session on how to set up an NGO and put your family members on the payroll.
It's congressional
and
money
on the
laundering
board.
101.
And on
It's
the
a class.
board.
They teach it, I'm sure.
And by the way, we're just going to go ahead and throw a couple $1 trillion in taxpayer money at it every year. So, who cares?
Yeah. Okay.
That's-
Do you guys
that's
want to?
true.
Do you want to jump back to the thread? Is there still more that we want to go
let's
through?
do
Okay.
that. Yeah, because there's still like a ton more. I'll go through it really quick. So then in that one video still, she says they reference coordination with Johns Hopkins, international democracy and conflict mitigation spaces, and efforts to mobilize across borders against what they perceive as domestic authoritarianism. And then it says, at what point does this become treason? And she said, note at the end of the video, the we in reference to organizing the February 5th protest, that was organized by Soros-backed groups 5051 and Indivisible. This is the first solid link that she had found, connecting the No Kings movement, State Department, and Soros together. And then the next video in that thread.
Pause real quick. By the way, same exact networks are funding the people who are today carrying the Iranian regime signs in the streets in New York City. It's the same effing people. It's the same people that were creating signs and funding the idiots who decided to get run over by cars and get shot by law enforcement up in Minneapolis. It's the same people. It's the same people.
If you go up and click on that post that I quote posted for that thread, we'll go through this really quick because this is the one that has the next video in her thread. Says Rotucci herself goes on to talk about bringing in international actors to assist with the color revolution. Okay, go.
Where is this?
Go down, just right there. That a Republicans post right there from November.
Click
9th.
on this.
Yeah.
Click on that. Okay.
And then the second video, it's only 50 seconds long, and you'll hear Rotucci, who used to work for USAID.
This video here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, 22nd century will be a great place. Is happening. I think we're still in the figuring that out phase, but I do think 22nd century will be a great place to build those connections. I know Johns Hopkins is also working to bridge international domestic democracy, conflict mitigation spaces, and to Hochul's point, actually just bringing in, we don't have to be intermediaries either. We can bring in actors or colleagues from around the world who have dealt with this directly, very specific issue sets, whether that's on tackling corruption or how to respond to corruption, mobilizing around corruption. We can bring those folks in and kind of be those facilitators. And so, again, I think those coordination structures are just starting to take place. And, Walt, I think is happening. I think we're still
Do you guys
in
see
the
those
figuring that out phase. But I do
sustainable
think,
development goals that some of them are using as their
Yep, their background. Yeah.
Did she say that they're going to bring in people to mobilize
International.
corruption?
Yeah. It gets
Yeah.
better. These meetings are wild. And when they started out, we were able to uncover some earlier ones because after we exposed this last fall, we thought we had as many of them recorded and saved and archived and all of that to be able to watch them all. And we have all of their notes because they publish notes, meeting notes. But after we exposed them, they started taking a lot of them down and they don't post any of their meetings anymore. So I don't know if they're sharing them by email or what they're doing, but
Signal
they are
chats, I'm sure.
definitely not posting them publicly since we exposed them. But so it's been difficult. We're still having to go back through some of the stuff that we have. But so they justify the international aspect by claiming that the authoritarians are already globally networked. So the authoritarians are globally networked. So that means that we have to coordinate internationally with other countries in order to stop the authoritarianism in the United States.
Pause for a second, folks. I want you to understand how perverted and corrupt their entire ideology is, their entire propaganda campaign is. They have somehow successfully convinced a large swath of people around the world that authoritarianism is a desire to let people live their life the way they want to live their life. They've convinced people that authoritarianism is protecting your own self-interest, cooperating with your neighbors, instead of relying on the World Economic Forum and the UN to dictate the rules-based order that everybody has to play by. That's what they've done. They have literally flipped 180 degrees, totally opposite of reality, the definitions of the words that they're using. Authoritarianism is exactly who these people are. They are the authoritarians. But because they know how to use language, they know how to use propaganda, they've convinced a lot of people that authoritarianism is liberty. That's what they've convinced you.
And you have to understand, these people don't just know language. These people do this in other countries for a living. They develop the systems and the methods by which they're going to convince people in other countries to rise up against their government so that they can put in place a new leader. They do this every day. They develop tools. They have democracy grading tools, which we'll get into in a minute. That's the thread that I posted Monday. I went into the democracy grading tools, which they are currently using in the United States on our democracy. This is what they do in foreign countries. This is what they do in Ukraine and Libya and Timbuktu. I mean, whatever far off land you can think of, this is the kind of thing that they do in those countries. And they're not allowed to do this on US soil because this is straight up CIA operations that they do. And they are using all of it on US soil. And in one of the videos we'll play from my thread, you hear them talk about the tools and how excited they are to be able to use these tools because they couldn't use them when they were employed for the government.
SK, quick question for you. Do you have, or have you seen an example of what this scorecard, this democracy scorecard looks like?
It's in my thread.
I would love an exercise to find out how the current propaganda campaign that's being waged, the pro-Iranian propaganda campaign from American influencers. I would love to see how that scores on the democracy scorecard.
There should be a new one since all this took place, because we'll go over it. I'll send you the link to the website and then we can pull it up and look at it, because they do it every week and they go through like news stories. So you can follow like the stories, and then they grade. They have all these different areas of democracy, and then they grade how the stories affect that area of democracy, because this is how they manipulate things in other countries, is by using the media. This is why the USAID was funding so many different media organizations in so many different countries, because they push the propaganda that they need to push in order to get the reaction they need to have.
You know, it's like any other corporate, or I guess any type of organization, the same axiomatic truth exists, which is if you don't measure it, you can't improve it. So anybody who understands the value of measuring the success of what you're trying to implement will know that, yes, it makes sense that they've developed a scorecard because they're serious about this. You cannot go to investors. You can't go to your board of directors. You cannot run a successful organization unless you have the intention and the ability to literally measure every single aspect of what you're doing. If you can't measure it, then you don't know how it's performing. And if you don't know how it's performing, you have no way to allocate resources to get better at something that you feel like you need to get better at.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because if you scroll to the next video, there's a 25-second video here where they literally talk about how the end goal is to create new socio-political economic governance systems. And that's where the scoring comes in, because not only the dignity index with political speech, they want to grade absolutely everything. That's one of the things that they're working on in a lot of states, because it could be in your state and you don't even know it. Your kids could be getting a score for character traits, and those go in their permanent record and follow them all the way through college.
That's right. Play this. Maybe.
No, it's not that one. It's the one that says it's like words on the screen. The next one. Maybe it's the next one after that, or did you go too far? It says lest you think it's harmless. Maybe rotate to yourself. Okay, go down.
No,
Globally networked.
Man, there's a lot. There it is.
Oh,
it's this one.
That one.
Okay. Yeah, this is
Foment of the current constitutional. The foment of the current constitutional crisis is our opportunity to catalyze and synergize a dynamic change making. a dynamic change, making fractal ecosystems capable of co-generating the emergence of the new thriving together based socio-political economic governance systems. That is a long sentence.
And
It wasn't that long of a sentence,
Fulfillment
lady. It's
of the
just that you
current
realize that
constitutional
every word that
crisis
came out of your
is our
mouth was
opportunity
just
to
crap.
capitalize.
Well, this is why I'm always telling you guys that they want to create a system, an economy. They call it an abundance economy. And they want to, this is the socialism part, except it's worse
Abundance
than that.
economy focused on lack. It's
Because they want to,
crazy.
yes, they want to take all of the resources and then they want to distribute those resources based on equity. So it'll be based on subjective things like the racism that you've experienced in your life, whatever, your social credit score, because that's in the pipeline. That's what they want. They want everyone, just like you were talking about going to the bank. They want everyone to have scores that follow them. So like you drop a piece of trash on the ground, oh, -1 social credit score point. Or you say something to someone on the internet and you call them a retard. Oh, -10 social credit points.
You're screwed,
Well,
dude. You're
you have to
screwed.
but listen, you have to have so many points.
Well, how do you
in
get
order-
good points?
Well, I guess you have to like say Donald Trump is Hitler or something. I don't know.
I
But-
mean, I'll say things, I guess, if I just get like extra banked points in this crazy system.
But
Like
listen,
Candace Owens is a genius and we love her.
yes. But listen,
Plus
so
10.
imagine
Ping.
like going to get gas in your car, and because you don't have money, you don't have cash, you don't have a credit card, you only have like your phone that you would touch, but it's only like they give you your allowance, and it's allocated however often based on your score and your behavior that week. It's like an allowance from your parents.
Paul,
So
that is a tier 4 cuss
And-
word. That is -4 points, dude.
Yes,
-4 points.
exactly. Imagine going and trying to get gas and it won't turn on. You can't get gas. And they say, well, sorry, you can't get gas again until next week because you drove too many miles this week and it's bad for the
Nah,
environment.
screw that. We're not doing that. Sorry. I don't care. These people can spend all the time and money they want. We're not doing that. I'm sorry.
Yep. No,
We're not doing it.
That's exactly what they want.
No,
And so this
I'm not
if you scroll
participating.
down, this is where she shows some of the network stuff. But we can go back to my thread. I think people can go look this up. This is
I'm
back
I'm
from-
really interested in your thread, SK, because I think we're going to have the perfect example of what a scoring system or scorecard would look like with an active propaganda campaign that we are literally watching play out right in front of our face. And I would love for us to be able to figure out how to use their scorecard to see how effective it's going to be, or it's being, because I think
Okay.
it's having a little bit of effect, but I don't think it's having the effect that they think it's having. And we'll talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit later.
Well, so Lisa and I worked on this thread for a long time, several weeks, because, it is what it is. But I got it posted Monday. And I put more evidence to all of the things that, we've posted about several other threads. It says there's very real color revolution happening right now on U.S. soil, guided by former federal employees, including USAID and U.S. Institute of Peace and their national and international partners, and mobilized by convenings like the 22nd Century Initiative conferences and the American Democracy Summit. And obviously we worked on this together. So they're going to try and overthrow the government and change our economy and our constitution. And remember, the 250th birthday is coming up, and it is not what you think. Their plans for the 250th birthday are not at all celebrating the Constitution and the things that have happened over the last 250 years. They want to completely change it, including the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments specifically. International tools in domestic application. So in this video, in the first thread, you can hear Marcia Munt, previously with USAID and the U.S. Institute of Peace, explicitly state what she is doing now wasn't allowed when she was employed at the government. She talks about how she's using the democracy assessment tool developed at USAID, but they're now applying it to the United States. She goes on to say, we were never allowed to analyze the United States in this way before because there is like this big dividing line between foreign assistance work and domestic work. And when I heard her say that, I said, you mean like laws? Because the CIA isn't allowed to operate on U.S. soil?
What makes these people
what?
think? What makes these people think that just because they're not in government, they can continue with the color revolution in this country?
nobody's doing anything about it, and they openly talk about it. Like they give trainings.
Well,
they're
I mean, I'm
training-
not sure. I'm not sure that's true. I'm not sure no one's doing anything. No one's doing anything about it, but it doesn't mean nothing's going to be done about it.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, for sure.
Yeah.
I know for a fact
mean-
something will eventually be done about it, but they're just letting them do this. They talk about it in the open. These are
They're
the
hanging
people that have been-
themselves.
These are the people that were training the protesters and organizers for No Kings, for all the protesting, Minnesota, the ICE, the signal chats, the organization for all of that. These are the people. These are fired federal employees that Trump went in and completely wiped out their entire agencies. And instead of just going and finding a new job or becoming an entrepreneur, they decided to carry on their international work on U.S. soil because they hate Donald Trump.
What is
Well, so
going
hold-
on over
hold on,
on the
real-
chat right now? They're
I
having
don't know.
conversations about
We've-
cesarean sections
We
and
lost
moms,
them.
and we love
we lost
love
them.
you.
We lost them.
we love you,
lost them.
moms.
But so for the folks that are out there wondering why it doesn't seem like anyone's doing anything about the color revolution, number one, it's not illegal to talk, right? I mean, we do still have a First Amendment. You can organize and you can say and you can say all of these things and have all of these meetings and these discussions. There is a line that you cannot cross, and that starts to get into sedition and insurrection, right? So when you have foreign funding coming into, fund or organizations that are, organizing these protests, and the protests get violent and the protests end up preventing the execution of federal law, then you're starting to cross the line from just organizing and talking and having conversations, right? So, but those lines have to be crossed, which is why these citizens, these private citizens, can now openly talk about this stuff. But talking about it is still conspiring.
Yep.
Once you actually cross the line, right?
Well, once somebody in your conspiracy crosses the line, then you start
Correct,
getting
exact-
into you start
That's
getting
what
into
that, That's why they're letting them hang themselves, in my opinion. They're
Yeah.
letting them hang themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
All right,
just listen to this one important part. So Danielle Reef, she's terrible. Just you can look her up. Absolutely terrible. Yeah, multiple different arms, terrible. We do have a systemic approach to democracy development as international democracy development professionals, and we work across all subsectors and stakeholders. We have assessment tools and strategy development tools for civil society, for the rule of law, for the broader democracy ecosystem, for political parties, for you name it. If it's in the realm of democracy, defense, and development, we've done it overseas. And so we're looking to figure out how to leverage our tools and our knowledge and our expertise for the American democracy.
Yeah.
In other words, they're training the ground game of the color revolution.
Yeah, but translated, that means they have to figure out how to do it very carefully without crossing lines that'll land them in jail. That's what they mean. Because they could get away with that working for the State Department, USAID, CIA. I've repeated myself 3 times. They could get away with it legally in other countries. They cannot legally get away with that in this country if they cross legal lines. So that's what they're trying to figure out how to do. They're treading very, very carefully. They're using mealy-mouthed words and planning and organization, and they're trying to encrypt a lot of it too. Anyway.
So we have a super chat. Brother, you roasted the welder guy. Damn nice one. Thanks for the laughs on days the show is off. You're welcome. He deserved it. And we're not done with them yet, because these are the people that I am collecting all of their receipts, and we are going to crush them into a fine pink misty powder. That's a fine pink powder once this is all said and done. We're going to destroy, actually, no, I take that back. They are destroying every shred of credibility they ever built on these social media platforms. And we're just going to remind people of how they're doing it.
Yep.
I'm collecting it all.
Mhm.
And the ones that I feel like need to be addressed initially, I'm addressing them. But every time one of these propagandists who have clearly made a decision that they are going to push globalist propaganda pretending to be America first, just know we're collecting it, and we're going to make you eat it a little bit later. Because I can't tell you the number of times I've read an idiot on social media, on X specifically, telling me that Donald Trump has betrayed the American people and is going to take us into another forever war. And in a couple of weeks, when the Trump administration comes out and says, "Yeah, we're done in Iran. Time to move on." They're going to have to eat that. They're going to have to eat it.
Yep.
And their credibility is going to be
there will be no boots on the ground in Iran.
Well,
not like we've seen in the past.
Let me challenge you on this. So we had one of our friends over in another DM chat ask the question today, and I answered it. He said, would anybody be able to support boots on the ground in Iran? And my response to that was, it depends entirely on the mission. If the mission is we need to send boots into Iran to finish the job of surgically removing the tentacles of the globalist elite agenda in that country, I could get behind that if it's sold properly. And if I'm confident that it is a very short-term temporary solution to finish the job. Yeah. What I will never be able to get behind is this idea that we're going to go nation build and we're going to prop up a foreign government and we're going to spend the next 20 years in there trying to figure out how to make it work. It's not our responsibility. The good news is I actually have a history of watching how the Trump administration operates, seeing how their entire national security strategy has been designed. And by the way, you don't just put out a national security strategy without having layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of plans in place to execute on that strategy. Think of it this way. A policy is a high-level overview of this is what we are going to do. And they've got layers of how they're going to do it. You don't just put out a policy and then just be like, just kidding, we're actually doing something else entirely. That's not how it works. That's not how that operates. They're telling you how what they're going to do. And now we have experience with how they've operated to see how they do it. So if they were to come to us and say, hey, we got to surge 10,000 troops in there to finish pulling out the last of the fifth mullah who's been elevated to the Ayatollah space because he's buried in the ground, I could be okay with that if it's done properly. But I don't think we're going to need to.
By the way, all those policies that you're talking about and standards and strategies and everything else that comes with it, what the hell do you guys think they were doing in the 2.5 years before President Trump was elected in 2024?
That's right.
What do you think they were doing down at Mar-a-Lago? Yeah, I mean, Trump was, and in his spare time, he was defending himself from 700 years, potentially facing in prison. But the rest of the people that were down there almost nonstop for 2.5 years, this is what they were doing.
That's right.
This is it. Well, this is part of it. There's a whole judicial, there's domestic, there's, Western hemisphere, there's global. This is precisely, remember when we told you that President Trump was probably the most prepared president in his second term to ever be inaugurated? This is what we're talking about. And for folks who are like, oh, he's being dragged around, you guys are absolute fucking clowns. Fucking clowns if you think that a man they tried to kill him twice that we know of, people in our own country, not including people outside of this country, try to kill him. Yeah, no, he's down there messing around. Sure. Okay.
Hey, Boggs Chips, I know that you were here late on Monday. I saw you jump into the chat really late into the show Monday. Go watch Monday's show. So Laura Loomer apparently picked up on the thread that several of us were talking about earlier this week. And now apparently it's a Laura Loomer story, which is fine. I don't care. Anybody who wants to talk about it can talk about it. But we spent a considerable amount of time on the show on Monday talking about the NIAC. We talked about what's the name of the word? Quincy Institute. Yep. We talked about Tetri Parsi being literally being a verified version of AIPAC in the United States on behalf of Iran. We talked about all that stuff.
Yep. Yeah, we did.
So go check that out. It's a really good episode too, by the way. I'm surprised it didn't see as many views as I thought it was going to be on YouTube, because I thought it was a really good episode. SK, anything else that you wanted to throw in or you want to talk through on that thread?
Well, there's tons, but I sent you. Oh yeah, we'll just move on.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's do this. I want to kind of pivot, but before we do, I think we need a bit of a timeline cleanse. You guys want to do that? Nom, can you pull up the "We're Winning"?
Let me see if I can find it.
We are winning. We need a "We Are Winning" buffer song. There we go. Yeah, we're the best around. All right, folks, I'm going to give you a little bit of a researcher's tip. I know SK is probably going to cringe when I say this, but I cheat because my time is very valuable and I work my ass off in my real life. So I don't have a lot of time to be reading documents and scouring the internet for things. So I cheat, and I have a running conversation going on with Grok right now. Every day I go to Grok and I say, update this post or this thread. So a couple days ago, I went out to Grok and I said, effectively, I need you to give me a summary of actual verifiable things that are happening in this conflict with Iran. I want to know deaths, casualties. I want to know successes. I want to understand how many of our munitions are being used. What does it look like? And then what do you think the percentage of success of the US and Israeli forces are going to be? And every day I go to it and I say, update this for me. So that's what we're going to do, because I think a sit rep is incredibly important on a daily basis so that you can learn how to weed through the crap and the propaganda that you're seeing on social media right now. Because if you listen to the people that are going to be epically embarrassed in a couple of weeks, they will have you convinced that we are losing this war. They will have you convinced. No, I see you laughing. That's what they're trying to do.
It's like watching the Buckeyes and you know, I don't know, Michigan gets a first down and you're like, oh shit, we lost, game's over. What?
Yeah.
What?
No, it's
Come
like
on.
watching the Buckeyes and like some high school JV team
Right.
playing
Yeah,
on the
and
field.
they get a first down. They stumble. You know what? They get a holding call, and we have to. And you know, we get pushed back 10 yards, and we're forced to punt. That's the
That's
end of
right.
the game, right? Game's over. They lost. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like
Yeah.
literally the dumbest thing I've heard today. It's the dumbest thing I've heard today because they say dumb shit all the time.
They say dumb shit all the time. All right, so quick sit rep. I think we're obviously winning in a major way. Close to 2,500 targets have been struck in Iran, affecting 130 cities. There has been absolutely no ground invasion reported. Although I did see a report today that some Iraqi-based Kurds have surged over the border and are going into Iran to start removing Revolutionary Guard people who are in hiding. And then I also saw another report that said that wasn't true. I didn't spend any time verifying it, but I'll just say this.
They covered that. That was covered on Fox News last night. I believe that they're going to. I'm in a hotel room and there's like 12 channels here. But those Kurds, the Iraqi Kurds, they're in like pickup trucks and they're supposed to be driving to like Tehran, which it'll take a bit of time to get there. I mean, Iran's not a small place.
No, it's like 21 million people, and it's pretty large.
It's 90 million people. There's 90 million people in Iran.
Oh, wow. All right. Yeah. So there have been some friendly fire incidents. Apparently in Kuwait, a couple of F-15s were downed. All the pilots are safe. They were just basic U.S. aircraft crashes. CENTCOM has released footage highlighting the first 100 hours of operations. So you can go see that. And we actually have a quick clip. Do you want to show a clip? Wait, yes, we are. Nom has relocated, and I'm in an undisclosed location still in the Buckeye State somewhere. And maybe
we grew up in the Columbus area.
That's right. That's right. We do need to play. There has been released footage of what I think is probably one of the coolest events so far. Did you guys know that we were able to use a submarine torpedo to take out for the first time, since World War II? Is that how long it's been? First time since World War II to take out an Iranian ship.
There's not a lot of Navy battles like that go on in the open sea, but one happened, and we've got live video of the naval battle, the torpedo striking the Iranian ship. You guys want to see it?
Yeah, we got
ready.
Show it. Show it.
There it is.
That is obviously a version of the actual video.
I think he's bigger than the actual torpedo.
Yeah, that's what I call the Pritzker torpedo. And the effect has been unlike anything ever seen since World War II.
It's the Pritzker class.
Right, the Pritzker class torpedo. But there is actually, believe it or not, that is actually based on real footage. Do we have that real footage? Can we show that real quick? It's in there.
I think
It's in there.
We've got U.S. blows. Yeah, so we have this.
Yeah, let's play that because this is actual real footage and it's pretty cool. So this is not the Pritzker class torpedo. This is actually a United States torpedo. Watch this. Maybe. Is it playing? Oh, there we go. Look at that. Look at that. That's what winning looks like, folks. That's what war fighters fighting wars looks like. As a matter of fact, we have completely decimated their Navy. Utterly decimated it. There is no Navy. They had a, as Pete Higgs has said.
Shit! Stop.
What is this?
Oops! I hit the wrong. I'm trying to
What
get this. I'm trying to get this picture back up because I'm. Listen, I'm using my iPhone's. What do you call it? Hotspot. Like my brain's not. My iPhone's hotspot for internet because the Wi-Fi at this hotel is so horrible. So everything's moving slow. It's just nothing's working the way it's supposed to. I'm sorry.
That's all right. No, it's working fine. All right. So that was part of the 100 hours of footage that was released by CENTCOM. And it's just, they're just utterly destroying their navies, completely gone. Pentagon's reporting still 6 U.S. service members killed. And I think we reported the same number on Monday. And I don't think there's been any casualties since then. I could be wrong about that. I checked this earlier this afternoon. It's been some minor injuries, of course. It looks like the Iranian leadership casualties continue to mount up. It's over 50 at this point. I know that the Ayatollah, the new Ayatollah, has just been named, and I think it's the son of the old Ayatollah. And I'm starting to see some really interesting reporting about this dude. Apparently, he's worth hundreds of billions of dollars and has been hiding out in an apartment in London and has had some, what do you want to call it, impotency problems,
yes,
which has prohibited him from being able to find a wife.
Well, imagine that.
I think the question that we should all be asking is, how much longer do we think he has to live? Because just yesterday, I was in the truck driving somewhere and I overheard what I thought was probably the coolest story ever. Apparently, an entire group of people came together to talk about restaffing their government and they blew them all up.
Mm-hmm. Hey, real quick, just a programming note for the real Watt life, whatever. I mean, it's a podcast. This is not like a live debate. I mean,
but aside from that, pick a date and time and a place, and I'll debate you all day long.
I
mean, what are you gonna debate? I mean, Trump's winning at like everything he does. I don't understand. But if you want to go debate, listen, there's a forum for that. It's called TikTok. There are live debates. You can go in there. You can actually come up and you could verbalize the things that you'd like to debate instead of, I don't know, coming in here and like clowning yourselves in comments. And it's a podcast, man. It's not a debate. Sorry.
I'll even pick some times coming up here and I'll host a debate again, like I used to do every day, and I'll debate you.
Let's do that, SK. We need to pick a night and we'll open up SK's live over on TikTok. You guys, if you don't have TikTok's accounts, you can open one. And then you guys can come interact and you can come up on the panel and you can debate, you can argue, you can agree. We can do that. We used to do that all the time and it's a lot of fun. But I'm going to warn you, if you are a leftist who thinks that you're going to be able to come up on a panel and win a debate by lying and propaganda and talking points, I'm just going to warn you, it is not going to work, because some of the most effective debaters that you'll ever hear, people who do this all day, every day, are on those platforms and they will destroy you.
I have an idea. We could actually through a screen share, we could
put it on the podcast.
We could stream it out of the podcast.
Pick a day. Yep. I want to debate so bad, and every time
it should be a Friday night. It should be a Friday night.
Maybe we'll transition one of our Friday after hours shows to that.
Yeah, I want to do it. I want to debate so bad. I miss it. I did it all day, every day for so long. And I mean, I know what you guys are going to say before you say it, which is also why I'm effective on X, because you guys all have the same talking points. But I miss it. And every time I go to open my TikTok app, I'm like, I can't do this.
We're doing it. We're going to pick a Friday here in the next couple of weeks and we'll pivot from the show to a live and we'll figure out how to stream it here. But you can't engage with the debate unless you're on TikTok. So,
and I hear that my arguments are still doing great on TikTok, by the way.
Wait, they bailed? Of course they bailed. Of course they did. They bailed. They always bail because they don't like losing. All right, so let's jump into this because the other day, I think it was Monday, maybe it was Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. It was yesterday. I was floating around social media, and all day long, I kept hearing the idiot class ask the same question over and over and over again. Of course, it was framed differently, and it was set up in a a lovely way about empathy and emotion, but they were all basically asking the same question: why Iran and why now? What, you're not going to put me on the podcast? I
I
mean,
don't know what Family
We
Crest is
can,
talking about.
can't you like set up a way for people to like call in, basically like
yeah,
join
I
the
think so.
thing? You can
There
set up
is a
like
way
a
to do that.
temporary link, and then people can join.
No, maybe that's a lot. That's a
Yeah,
lot.
that's
I
a
don't
lot.
have time for that.
All right, I want to set this up. I want to show you guys. This is just a quick sample of. Can you pull up why now, Kelly? This is a quick sample of the why now, why Iran, why are our military involved type of crap that we're hearing from the turncoat class of influencers. And this one kind of upset me a little bit, but it makes sense considering where she's been going over the last several weeks. I was not surprised to see this from Megyn Kelly.
So to be fair, listen, I haven't seen this at all. I'm just going to preface this by saying she has been consistent. She had the same position when we bombed the nuke facility. She had the same position of Venezuela. But I don't know what she's saying, but I'm telling you what her position was. She was very anti those operations from the giddy up. I'm assuming that's where she's going with this. Okay.
She's a journalist. She should know better than this because the answers are right in front of her face. All right, pull it up.
Ready?
Yep.
Own feeling is no one should have to die for a foreign country. I don't think those 4 service members died for the United States. I think they died for Iran or for Israel. I think I understand how this helps Iran perfectly well. I get it. I mean, I hope. Long term, we'll see. But they seem rather jubilant. 80% of the country does not support the Ayatollah. He was a terrible, terrible man. No one's crying that he's dead. No normal person. But our government's job is not to look out for Iran or for Israel. It's to look out for us. And this feels very much to me like it is clearly Israel's war. Mark Levin wanted it. It's his war. Ben Shapiro, Lindsey Graham, Miriam Adelson. That's obvious. They're the ones who've been pushing us into this. But look, they're
the ones that are pushing us into this. I mean, look, I get it. Sorry, SK, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Well, I was just going to ask if you guys saw that video. I think I sent it to you guys, the one of Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly, and they're dressed in like burqas and stuff.
Yes. Yeah. I think the point that needs to be made to the Megyn Kelly class is, honestly, I'm so sick and tired of hearing people say that Israel dragged the United States into this conflict. First of all, if you think Donald Trump is going to be dragged anywhere to do anything, you are a lunatic. You're a lunatic.
Well, Trump already addressed this. He addressed it yesterday in the Oval Office, and he said, I think, if anything, I actually dragged Israel into this.
Yeah. And do you want to know why? Because what people don't realize is that coming out of the attack on their nuclear facilities, we actually started to negotiate with Iran. Did you guys know that? There were negotiations that were going on. And because I don't have like the type of memory where I can memorize a bunch of statistics, I actually go out and I look this stuff up. And I wanted to find out, like, how did those negotiations go? Well, first of all, the negotiations didn't even start until the beginning of February. So basically, Iran had 6 months, 7 months just to peter around, play around, and start building up their ballistic missiles and their rocket arsenal and their drone arsenal. And that's what they've been doing to receive a bunch of technology, possibly even nuclear material from their allies, China, Russia, from the other folks that are in their axis of resistance. Who knows what the hell they were doing over that 7-month period. But when they first sat down on February 6th, 2026, here's what Iran came to the negotiating table with. This was their opening bid. They proposed uranium enrichment up to 60%. They walked into the room saying they had enough uranium at that moment for 11 nuclear bombs. They told Witkoff that. And actually, we have a video of Witkoff explaining it. Can you play that Witkoff video real
This
quick?
is, yeah, I will. While I dig this, this is what is driving me crazy. Guys, I have since Monday, I was driving for 8 hours on Monday. I left my house at 7:30 in the morning Central Time, and I got to my hotel down here in Tampa at like 5:40 local time. Since then, I have done so many other things other than pay attention to politics. And I fucking know all of these numbers. There's no reason for Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly to not know this stuff. There's
And
no reason whatsoever.
Beyond that, I was debating this topic in 2024 and 2025 on TikTok. And for the record, there are IAEA reports that exist from 2023 that Iran had samples of uranium test at 83.7% enrichment. And also you don't need enrichment past like 20% for energy or medical purposes or anything like that. The only reason you need 60% enrichment is
For a
because it
weapon.
takes you like 5 minutes to get to weapons.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So let me continue to set this up before I play this, because I've got it here. Since I've been in Tampa, I've been in nothing but preparation for investor pitches, right? Happy hours, meeting people. I've done absolutely nothing related to I came to the show tonight and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I know these numbers simply because I've caught them here, and there's no reason for these people to be pretending like they don't know this. So let's get to Steve Witkoff, because I already know what he's going to say. How does Megyn Kelly not know this?
Because she doesn't want to know it, because it doesn't fit the narrative. The narrative is, oh, I have a bleeding heart. Nobody should die. I get it. Nobody wants to see U.S. service members lost in conflict like this. But when you understand the full totality of exactly what the Trump administration is doing and has been doing for about 8 years now, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense. So, by the way, again, just remember, this is exactly what Iran came to the table 30 days ago with. This was their negotiation. Go.
I got this small little detail. In that first meeting, both the Iranian negotiators said to us directly, with no shame, that they controlled 460 kilograms of 60%, and they're aware that that could make 11 nuclear bombs, and that was the beginning of their negotiating stance. So they were proud of it. They were proud that they had evaded all sorts of oversight protocols to get to a place where they could deliver 11 nuclear bombs.
So the Trump administration's negotiation stance was, hell no, you're not going to be enriching anything. And eventually landed on, okay, we might be willing to consider some type of enrichment for like things like medical grade and that type of stuff. But there is no negotiating around that level of enrichment. None. And that's where it fell apart, because Iran was not playing ball. And the Trump administration gave them a deadline. When they met again, I think it was on the 20th of February, Trump warned them, if you don't come to the table ready for an agreement, we're going to attack you. That was on the 20th. He gave them a 10 to 15 day period. And when they refused to come to the table, boom. So when you ask the question, why now? That's why.
Well, so hold on. That's not just why.
No, that's just the beginning of it.
No, that's just the beginning. People need to understand there is so much more to this story that they simply cannot tell us, right? The intelligence cannot be released. People are like, well, they didn't tell. Do you have any idea the intelligence that the president looks at every single day and the really shitty fucking decisions he has to make every day from this intelligence? And almost none of it you'll ever know about and you'll ever see. Like almost none of it.
Yep.
This is the world that they operate in. And then you've got these pundits and these people, this chattering class who imagine that for some reason that they should be entitled to knowing every reason for every decision. No, you're just not. And you're going to have to suck it up. These people know better. Megyn Kelly fucking knows better. Tucker Carlson knows better. This is really frustrating for me. I'm a little pissed off about this.
It's going to be even more frustrating. So I want to tell a little bit of a story. Now I'm going to share my screen here for a second because I want to take us back to the national security strategy document. And if you guys are getting sick of hearing me talk about it, I'm sorry. I'm going to continue to talk about it because everything that you need to know about why now is in this document. It's right here. It's all right here. All right. Now, this document's only about 21 pages long. And the good news is if you want to understand why now in Iran, you only need to read about 3 paragraphs because it is very short. They tell you exactly why now. But I'm going to read the whole section for you. And I know nobody likes when I read a lot, but I want to read this because I'm convinced that a bunch of people still have not read it yet. So after I'm done, none of you will have a single excuse for not understanding this. And I'm not talking about you because you guys in the chat, you're super smart. You get it. You're reading this stuff. But the people who catch on to this video later, I'm talking to you. You will have no excuse for not understanding the why Iran and why now. So on page 27, the Middle East shift burdens, build peace. For half a century at least, American foreign policy has prioritized the Middle East above all other regions. The reasons are obvious. The Middle East was for decades the world's most important supplier of energy, was a prime theater of superpower competition, and was rife with conflict that threatened to spill into the wider world and even to our own shores. Today, at least 2 of those dynamics no longer hold. Did anybody know that? Before I read this, did anybody know that 2 of those dynamics are no longer in existence anymore? I didn't know that. You probably did because you're smarter about this stuff than I. I didn't know that. But as I've done more research, it makes perfect sense. So it says today, at least 2 of those dynamics no longer hold. Energy supplies have diversified greatly, with the United States once again a net energy exporter. Superpower competition has given way to great power jockeying, in which the United States retains the most enviable position, reinforced by President Trump's successful revitalization of our alliances in the Gulf with the Arab partners in Israel. What is he talking about there? Does anyone know what he's talking about?
Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE.
But what
Otherwise known
specifically?
as
The Abraham Accords.
Abraham Accords.
Folks,
So drill, baby, drill, coupled with the Abraham Accords, is basically the solution to the Middle East quagmire we've been bogged down in for 40 years.
the why Iran.
Family crest, you guys. I'm sorry.
Quagmire.
Did you know that people in Dubai don't like the Flintstones, but people in Abu Dhabi do?
Well, there's an interesting aspect to where PatriotDad's going with this related to the Flintstones and the Stone Age.
That's right. There's a reason why Iran has been working overtime for decades to keep the Middle East stuck in the Stone Age. There's a reason for it, and I'm going to lay it out for you as we go through this. So just to reiterate, this sentence right here, in which the United States retains the most enviable position, reinforced by President Trump's successful revitalization of our allies in the Gulf, with our Arab partners, and with Israel. What he's talking about is the Abraham Accords. We're going to get into those here in a minute. But for the first time, can you guys see that ladybug that just landed on my monitor? I don't think you can. That's cool. I have a ladybug on my monitor.
How would we be able to see it?
Well, no, it's like walking right across my document.
No.
The Abraham Accords are the solution to decades and centuries of quagmire in the Middle East. It goes on, it says, conflict remains the Middle East most troublesome dynamic, but there is today less to this problem than headlines might lead one to believe. Iran, the region's chief destabilizing force, has been greatly weakened by Israel's actions since October 7th. Pause.
What happened on
dramatic
October
effect.
7th, 2023?
Dramatic effect.
Hamas attacked Israel, and Hamas doesn't do anything without who's so you guys have heard me do, like, you see me do like the puppet thing, right? You've got like Mark Warner, when he speaks, the CIA has their hand up his ass and they're making his mouth go like this, right? That's basically Hamas, except with bombs and stuff, and and detonation vests and suicide vests. Those are basically Iranian people having their hands up those Hamasis' asses and making them go and do boom boom things. Right?
That's right.
It's Iran. Okay.
Okay. So now when I was reading this again on Tuesday, maybe it was late Monday night, I read that sentence and a light bulb went off in my head. I read the sentence: Iran, the region's chief destabilizing force, has been greatly weakened by Israel's actions since October 7th, 2023. And I was like, holy crap, that is the why now. That is the why now. Because Iran and what I've learned and what they have referred to as their axis of resistance is at the weakest point today than it has ever been before. And I'm going to show you exactly why. Oh, what's that? Clip it. There it is. Clip that. Clip that. Because the why now is because if you are going to engage in a long game play of switching regimes at a global level that exist at a regional level, the best time to do it is when the primary agent of chaos in that region is at the weakest point they've ever been. And right now, they're at the weakest point they've ever been. And President Trump's June 2025 Operation Midnight Hammer, which significantly degraded Iran's nuclear program, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict remains thorny, but thanks to the ceasefire and release of hostages President Trump's negotiated, progress towards a more permanent peace has been made. Hamas's chief backers have been weakened or stepped away. Syria remains a potential problem, but with American American, Arab, Israeli, and Turkish support may stabilize and reassume its rightful place as an integral positive player in the region. As this administration rescinds or eases restrictive energy policies and American energy production ramps up, America's historic reason for focusing on the Middle East will recede. Instead, the region will increasingly become a source of destination for international investment and in industries well beyond oil and gas, including nuclear energy, AI, and defense technologies. We can also work with Middle Eastern partners to advance the economic interests, from securing supply chains to bolstering opportunities to develop friendly and open markets in other parts of the world, such as Africa. Folks, this last paragraph, and then I'll stop there. Middle East partners are demonstrating their commitment to combating radicalism, a trendline American policy should continue to encourage. But doing so will require dropping America's misguided experiment with hectoring these nations, especially the Gulf monarchies, and abandoning their traditions and historic forms of government. We should encourage and applaud reform when and where it emerges organically, without trying to impose it from without. The key to successful relations with the Middle East is accepting the region, its leaders, and its nations as they are, while working together on areas of common interest.
Can I?
Yeah, real quick. Let me just land the plane, and then we'll chat about it for a second. That is the fundamental difference between nation building and forever wars and the American system. What Donald Trump just laid out here in this strategy document is the America First system. It's regional cooperation between Arab partners, Israeli partners, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, all of the Gulf states that are now starting to come on board with the Abraham Accords, with a common understanding of what's called peace for peace. You see, what that means is we will give you peace, you give us peace, and there won't be any strings attached except common purpose, trade, negotiations, AI technology, defense contracts, all the things that allow an entire region to be brought up from the Stone Age into a modern age. Why do you think the extinction burst that's happening out of Iran just the other day was targeting data centers in the UAE, in Dubai? Why? Because those data centers are a product of the relationship that was established between the UAE and Israel. Iran, the agent of chaos, is doing what they have always done on behalf of the globalists, which is trying to destabilize normal relationships and cooperation between countries. The why now is because Iran is at the weakest point they've ever been. And I'm going to show you that in a second. Sorry, SK, you had something to add. Nom, go for it.
She did.
I was just going to tell you that that IAEA report that I mentioned, I believe, had a lot to do with why October 7th happened, because it was January of 2023 when the IAEA found the samples that tested at like 83.7% U-235 or whatever it's called. And I think that caused problems. It wasn't really sorted out until summertime. And I think Iran told Hamas it was time to go because I think that they were going to kick things off and they knew the Biden administration wasn't going to do anything about it.
If you understand that Iran's primary purpose in the Middle East is simply to retain a destabilizing presence, everything else makes sense. So Donald Trump, back on September 15th, 2020, helped to negotiate the beginnings of what's called the Abraham Accords. Do you guys remember what the Abraham Accords are? We've got a quick video. Let's pull up the Abraham Accords video so we can spend a few minutes talking about this. Because if you understand the Abraham Accords, you will then understand why Iran had to work through Hamas to attack Israel. You will then understand why the globalists are so desperate to keep Iran as a destabilizing force in the Middle East, because they cannot allow for stability in that region. Pull up the video for, there you go.
After decades of division and conflict, September 15th, 2020 was a historic day for peace. President Donald J. Trump brokered the signing of 2 peace agreements between Israel and Arab states, the first in more than a quarter century. They were between Israel and the United Arab Emirates and between Israel and Bahrain. Hello, I'm Christian James, a spokesperson for the U.S. Department of State in London, and this is U.S. policy on the Abraham Accords, explained. These 2 agreements normalized relations between these nations, establishing regional peace built upon shared interests, mutual respect, and friendship. 5 weeks later, the United States brokered yet a 3rd peace agreement, this time between Israel and Sudan. Collectively known as the Abraham Accords, through these agreements, each country recognizes the importance of strengthening peace in the Middle East and around the world through mutual understanding and respect for human dignity and freedom. They also promote interfaith and intercultural dialogue in order to advance a culture of peace through cooperation. They acknowledge that the best way to address challenges is through cooperation and dialogue, and the importance of tolerance and respect for every person. And finally, they call for an end to radicalization and conflict by supporting science, art, medicine, and commerce to inspire humankind, maximize human potential, and bring nations closer together. Through the Abraham Accords, Israel, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Sudan are setting aside their differences and pursuing long-lasting peace in the region. They are now establishing embassies, exchanging ambassadors, and cooperating as partners on a variety of issues, including tourism, trade, healthcare, and security. The Abraham Accords are a monumental step in creating more opportunities for establishing peace, prosperity, and stability in the Middle East. I'm Christian James, and this.
All right, that was a really important introduction to the Abraham Accords for those who are not familiar with it. You've heard Donald Trump talk about it. I think everyone's like, great, it's a peace agreement. That's not exactly what the Abraham Accords are. They're not peace agreements. They are individual bilateral agreements between Israel and individual neighbors. This is the first time that Israel is engaged in any of these types of agreements with their neighbors bilaterally in 50 years, maybe less. It's been a very long time since they've been able to do that because of the destabilization effort. So understand, from a globalist system perspective, the globalists thrive on destabilized regions. They thrive on the volatility of energy markets. They thrive on the ability to use that chaos to drive their elitist agendas. They literally make money on this. Do you understand that the globalist systems, SK talked about this a little bit earlier, these multinational corporations, these defense contractors, they make money on destabilized regions because these conflicts generate contracts, which generate revenue, which generate more control and more conflicts. That's the globalist system. And what these Abraham Accords are designed to do is to finally isolate Iran as the agent of chaos and destabilization in the region and start building normalized relations directly with Israel. So what does that look like? Well, since the Abraham Accords were launched, you're starting to see direct flights between Israel to places like Dubai. You're seeing trade agreements in place. The UAE and Israel have bilateral trade agreements topping over $10 billion by next year. You see free trade agreements happening. You've got tech and security operations. You've got cyber defense organizations and innovations happening. You've got data centers coming online. You've got a industrialized Middle East, which has always been beholden to oil. Oil, when it's in the hands of the globalist, is an incredibly volatile commodity on purpose. On purpose. Iran's role in the Middle East has always been to make sure that that destabilized effect remains in place. So the Abraham Accords started with just a couple of nations, and then it expanded and included Sudan, and I think Morocco has come on. But the thing that caused the reaction, I think, from the Iranians and their network or their axis of resistance was the knowledge that Israel and Saudi Arabia were getting ready to ink a long-term agreement in September. So I had this up earlier. I want to show you this. See, a lot of people think that the reason why the September 7th, 2023 attack or terrorist attack on Israel happened was just because it was the Palestinians and Hamas that wanted to, they wanted to inflict blood. Sure, they did. They wanted to kill a bunch of Israelis because that's what they do. But at the same time, there are now Hamas documents that have been uncovered that show that there was conversation in the days prior to the assault where their leader, Sinwar, had talked about needing an extraordinary act to quash Riyadh or Saudi Arabia's openness to diplomatic ties with Israel. This is the reason why the terrorist attack on October 7th happened.
Pause real quick, because what do you imagine he meant when he said that he needed to quash the openness from Riyadh to a relationship with Israel? Because Hamas attacking Israel, how would that basically repel Saudi Arabia from Israel? Unless they knew that Israel would react exactly the way that they did and do precisely what they did as a result, and they basically sacrificed all of those Palestinians to try to get Saudi Arabia to back away from a relationship with Israel. Were all of those Palestinians sacrificed knowing exactly what Israel would do?
I don't think they expected the Israeli response to be as swift and as harsh as it was, but they fully anticipated a response. And as you go through those documents and you start to understand what they were planning for, the destabilizing impact that they were hoping for, the entire purpose was to create events along the way that would cause those Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, the UAE, all of these Gulf states, to look at Israel and say, maybe we don't want to normalize relations with them because of the way they're treating the Palestinians. You see, the one thing that everybody who hates Israel will agree on about the Abraham Accords is this. The Abraham Accords allowed Israel to normalize relationships with the Gulf states and their neighbors without any type of Palestinian involvement at all. It allowed them to circumvent the Palestinian situation completely Now, every other agreement or conversation or negotiation that happened prior to the Abraham Accords had on the negotiation table some type of capitulation to the Iranian influence through Hamas into the Palestinians.
Yep.
The Abraham Accords circumvents that entirely. What it does is it boxes Iran's ability to disrupt normalized relationships through Hamas and the Palestinian conflict. It ices that out. So next time you're engaged with one of these propagandists and you start talking to them and you get to the heart of why they don't like the Abraham Accords, that's it right there.
Yep.
Because they know the Abraham Accords, the American system being implemented in the Middle East, allows Israel to normalize relationships without solving the Palestinian conflict. But I don't think anybody expected the response that Israel had. And this is my opinion. I can't prove this because I haven't spent enough time researching it, but I think if I do, I will be able to prove it. I'm absolutely convinced that when that terrorist attack happened, Bibi Netanyahu and the Israeli authorities had to make a decision. What do we do? Do we respond the way we normally do with just some pat them on the rear end, spank them around a little bit? Or do we go full on and remove the tentacles of Iran's influence in the region? Because Iran has always operated in what's called this axis of resistance, right? They operate through Hamas, they operate through Hezbollah, they operate through the Houthis. They have these proxies in the region that do the work for them. And while those proxies are allowed to exist, they're going to operate independently, but they're also going to operate under the influence of Iran. So I'm convinced that Israel had to make a decision. If we want long-term stability in this region, which we started to be able to build through the Abraham Accords, we're going to have to take the risk that dealing with the axis of resistance, fully dealing with it, and stripping their ability to impact the region in the long term means that we're going to have to get very tough with them. And I think everybody understood that this could totally destroy the entire Abraham Accords. But the good news is it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Patriot Dad,
Yep.
you're getting GR Patriot in trouble. He said my wife's opinion differs. She's yelling at me while correcting you.
Oh, what's she saying? No, that's not good. What does she disagree with me on? I'd love to hear it. Put it in the comments. I want to hear. Because I'm not
I
wrong.
probably got him in trouble by saying
Sorry.
that out loud. Because
I'm sorry.
He's probably listening to it out loud. Well, obviously, if she's yelling. So I probably got him in trouble.
Look, you are, and I get it. There's a lot of people out there that, because the propaganda is so thick, everybody thinks that Israel
yelling was
is
too strong of a word. We need to correct that. She wasn't yelling at him. She was probably just aggressively correcting you.
That's fine. You're welcome to correct me. This is a free speech platform. No, it's not. This is an authoritarianism platform. It is for sure. We own it, and that's just the way it is. But your opinions are valued. We value your opinions. Just know that my opinion is backed up by research, and I spend a lot of time thinking through this stuff. Look, I get it. Israel is the world's boogeyman because that's what the globalists need you to believe. They need you to believe that when they react to the worst terrorist attack ever on their soil, and they take the steps necessary to dismantle the Hamas leadership, the Hezbollah leadership, and start taking out the drone technologies of the Houthis, and they start dismantling the axis of resistance, and at the same time continuing to press for further negotiation and cooperation with those Gulf states, which, by the way, are the exact same states that Iran is right now bombing. Did you notice that? If I hear one more of these wackadoodle, idiot, fake-ass America First people say, well, look, Donald Trump's got bombs flying at the Gulf states. Well, no shit. It's because the Gulf states are part of Donald Trump's strategy to remove Iran as the agent of chaos in the region. They're doing it on purpose. These countries have partnered with Israel and with the United States for the sole purpose of stability. That's why they're doing it. They are tired of living in a region that is a Stone Age environment run by lunatic, apocalyptic, ideological madmen. I don't know how else to explain it. And it's not just the theological aspect of it, it's the economic aspect of it. If you live in the Middle East, you know damn well that energy needs are changing. You are not going to be able to provide for the people that live in your country. You are not going to be able to provide economic opportunity for anybody if you're solely reliant on your own oil. That's why you're seeing investment come in technology. That's why you're seeing data centers being built in the UAE. That's why you're seeing Israel starting to negotiate defense contracting deals with these countries. They are trying to diversify, and Iran is trying to keep them focused on chaos. That is how this conflict is playing out. The conflict is playing out to where the globalists who run their system through Iran, the central banks, the Bank of London, the World Economic Forum, the UN, the Rothschilds, all the people who operate the globalist system are entirely dependent on Iran remaining as their chaos agent in the region. And to SK's point earlier today, go. Clip it. Clip it. I don't know what that clip was for, but I'm sure it's going to be great.
It's for like 5 minutes, but the entire 5 minutes before that was fantastic. Fantastic.
I don't know how else to explain this to you folks, except what you're watching play out in the Middle East. So let me do it this way. Why Iran? Well, because they're the globalist chaos agent. And you can't replace. How many of you guys, when you were voting for Donald Trump, raise your hand, be honest. How many of you guys coin instant?
No, well, listen, whoever that is, listen, they're down there talking about Epstein. They're talking. This guy's a moron.
What? No. You know, it's a really good
down there
point.
talking about Epstein.
Hey, this is a really good point. I'm okay with talking about this. Hey, coin instant moms, dads, whatever the hell your name is. You want to answer a question for me? Do it in the chat. Why is it that the people's names who show up all throughout the Epstein files are the exact same people who are the most upset about removing Iran as the chaos agent in the Middle East? Tell me that. Tell me why you've got the Bill Gates of the world, you've got the people at the UN, you've got all of these foreign heads of states in the UK, you've got all of these people all over the world who are Epstein's buddies, begging him for money, working with him for strategy.
Oh my gosh, you're talking to a bot. It says, no, bro, look up who the what it's are.
Okay, that's a bot. Hey, can someone get rid of that idiot? I'm not going to try to. But the point is, if you want to try to tie Epstein to this, fine. Go look at the names that are involved in the propaganda campaigns that are happening all throughout the world, the color revolutions, and the exact same names are going to show up in the Epstein files. The same ones. They're the same people.
Yep.
It's the same people. So back to the original question.
It's always the same people.
Why Iran? Because they are the globalist dagger in the heart of stability in the Middle East. And why now? Because they're the weakest they've ever been.
And by weak, what he means by that is the tentacles, the proxy groups have been all but decimated. You see, it's the same thing that President Trump and DHS did inside of our country, right? When they said that they were going out and they were targeting criminal illegal aliens, what they were really doing is they were targeting the cartels, the folks who were allowed into this country, who would be the ones launching attacks in this country once we get to a place where we start mass deportations to destabilize the country. Instead, when you get all of those people out of there, when you get the criminals off the street, when you get the proxy terrorist groups out of the Middle East, you decimate them, then the cartels, the Democrats, the deep staters, the Iranians, the IRGC, they don't have their street muscle anymore with their tentacles across the Middle East to destroy things any longer. So Israel wiped them out. That's why Iran is weakened. Now the only thing they have left is the ballistic missiles and the drones that they've been able to stockpile, which turns out isn't enough.
That's right. All right. Go ahead, SK. Now I'm going to play one last video before we wrap up.
GR Patriot's wife had her response for you. It says the biggest part of the Abraham Accord is when, I'm not sure. Part of the deal that Israel was supposed to give up some of this land to the Palestinians in order to promote a peace agreement. That's his wife. No, actually, the Abraham Accords just said that Israel would not annex any more land. They didn't have to give up anything to Palestine.
That's right. That's right. It allowed for bilateral relationships between Israel and their neighbors. Why does anybody have a problem with that? I'll tell you why. Because they require the Palestinian conflict to be the proxy by which Iran and the globalists are allowed to continue the destabilization efforts. That's why. And by the way, in case you didn't know, Israel and Saudi Arabia are back in conversation again. Now, if you want to take this to a religious ideological perspective, we can certainly do that too. And no, I'm not talking about Israel as God's chosen people. We can do it from an Islamic perspective. The Shia or Shiites in Iran are crazy. They are apocalyptic, Mahdi people who believe that the more chaos they create, the more death and destruction that they generate, the faster that their Mahdi is going to return. The Sunnis are not crazy. They're Islamic, and they maybe have some crazy ideas as part of their basic religion, but they're not crazy. As a matter of fact, I think they're probably tired of being ruled by crazy people. So what happens when the Abraham Accords are effective at stabilizing the region? It also shifts the power in the Islamic region from the crazies to the non-crazies. And Riyadh becomes the central point of Islamic control throughout the religion.
Yeah, that's another aspect of this that we haven't spent much time on. What PatriotDad just said there is hugely important, right? You're shifting the power balance from the psychotic Shia portion of Islam to the less psychotic Sunni version of Islam, the ones who don't necessarily force or mandate or require women to be covered from head to toe and all the things that you get. So I mean, that's a huge aspect of this, because without it, when you have this authoritarian, totalitarian view that was coming down from the IRGC, from from the Ayatollah there in Iran, you can never have liberty, and without liberty, you're never going to have progress. You'll never have it. It's impossible for it to exist.
Actual liberty, though, and
Actual
the
liberty,
Abraham
not-
Accords. The Abraham Accords were a lot to do with the economy as well as security, and like forging alliances with Israel and normalizing relations with Israel, instead of all the countries in the Middle East refusing to do any business or anything with Israel. They would agree to basically create security alliances and not attack each other, and also trade with each other. And you've seen that taking place. People like to talk a lot about Jared Kushner and his hedge fund, but Jared Kushner's hedge fund is directly investing Saudi Arabian money into Israeli startups and Israeli companies. And that would have been unheard of 15 years ago. There's no way Saudi Arabia would have allowed a single dollar to be invested in Israel. And now there are billions of dollars being invested in Israel from Saudi Arabia.
That's right. So the question that we need to ask ourselves or ask other people is simple. If you are one of these people who is opposed to our actions in Iran, it's really only for two reasons. A, maybe you're just a hippie who doesn't like war, conflict at all, which is fine. That's your right. Or you're a globalist sock puppet. There really isn't any other option. So when you're talking to the artist formerly known as whatever the hell his name is, and the Ryan Mattas and the Ian Carrolls and the Stu Peters and the Kelly or the Megyn Kellys and the Tucker Carlsons and the Hodge twins, and there's a handful, probably about 15 or 20 of these influencers who've decided that they're going to take the mask off. Just know, when you're listening to them, they are the globalists that they claim to hate. Because they are driving global agendas.
Right. 2 points before you. I think you had one more video you wanted to show before you wrapped up.
Yep.
I see you over there, Family Crest. Again, I don't get those. I don't get the Rumble rants in our comments here. So
wait,
I had to bring it over.
Did I take that down? Sorry, I took that down.
Family Crest, we had a $10 Rumble rant. Let me find it. Let me bring it back up here. There it is. Family Crest says another great show tonight. Straight fire. Please don't dock my P1 status for being a few minutes late. You made it just under the threshold. If you were another minute late, you would have been a P2. We were going to dock you, but you made it. You made it just in time. That's one. There was another one that I wanted to react to about Pakistan. Why is Pakistan attacking our consulate? Pakistan is littered with what I think is remaining Houthis, if I'm not mistaken. Pakistan was basically owned by Iran. For all intents and purposes, there's still some entrenched embedded Houthis in Pakistan. That's what that is.
Well, also, and I can go out and verify this, but I'm pretty confident I saw something about the Pakistani military actually starting to provide security support for Israel and for the United States in this conflict. So we can go verify that. But nonetheless, you're starting to see all of these Gulf nations, these non-crazy Shiite apocalyptic lunatics who are not puppets of the globalist system. You're starting to see them wake up to the reality that we want a more regionally controlled environment where we can actually develop our countries. We can diversify our portfolios, and we can respect our cultures. Guys, that is the fundamental difference between the globalist system, the rules-based order system, the system that's pushed by all of the fake influencers right now. Is the idea that you can take democracy and drop it into those regions is a fundamental lie. And the Abraham Accords were very careful to say, we want to encourage advancement in your societies and in your culture, but we're going to respect your culture. That's the bottom line. Yes. Mutual respect across cultures. Holy crap. That's a crazy idea. And I thought that was the idea of the coexist people. Isn't that the way that the world's supposed to work? Mutual respect.
Isn't that weird how they went from, coexist and, respect everyone and, all of these things to pushing their agenda in countries that don't want their agenda there. And people trashed Project 2025. And one of the major things in Project 2025 is we aren't going to push any of this stuff in any of these countries that don't even think that this is real stuff. None of this LGBTQ stuff, none of the trans stuff. This isn't going to be pushed in your countries. We aren't going to push things on you that you don't agree with, like the Biden administration did. That's right. And I don't know why people have a problem with that. We shouldn't be forcing people the same way in the United States. We're a melting pot. We always uphold ourselves as a melting pot. That means your neighbor can be from Saudi Arabia or Africa or Europe or anywhere in the world. And they're going to have their customs and their traditions and their religions, but you're still going to wave to each other when you see each other in the street. You're going to respect each other. You're free to exercise your religion and your speech as long as you aren't committing a crime.
That's right. So I actually have two quick videos I want to show. So for those of you guys that engage on social media, next time you come across somebody who pretends to be an America First person, who doesn't understand why America First means sometimes you have to project power, here is a quick 2-minute video that I found, some dude on TikTok, I think, that talks a lot about the things that we just covered from a slightly different perspective and asks some really important questions. So listen to this.
So to the people who are complaining about Trump bombing Iran because they say that this is all Israel's doing and they're so tired of having to protect Israel and getting involved in Israel's problems, which basically all tie back to Iran, let me ask you this, because this seems like common sense to me. We're already in this. So let's say, for instance, we wipe out the regime, which looks like it's happening, and we eliminate any chance for Iran to have a nuclear weapon, and we establish or help establish a pre-1979 secular Iran, where normal people are back in charge. They aren't Islamic extremists who are trying to enforce Sharia law. Wouldn't this be a great thing? Because then Israel's not going to need our protection around the clock anymore. Because A, the Ayatollah Khomeini and all of his maniacs are gone. And then number two, of course, is that no other Islamic country in the Middle East is going to try to do the same thing that Iran did because, well, they see what the fate of Iran was. So this would solve all your problems. You could still hate Israel, knowing the fact that we don't have to defend it every single day. And for those people who love Israel, well, you're happy because the big bad wolf is dead. people like me who don't hate or love Israel, just want to be all about America first, I feel a whole lot better knowing the fact that I don't got to be spending billions of dollars anymore trying to protect myself against the evil empire. I don't have to worry anymore about the price of oil going up and down and everything else crazy. No nukes are going to be developed to be pointed at me. And oh, by the way, 200,000 jobs will be created because now we'll have a new ally in Iran who's going to want to do trade with us. And the estimates are that that would be about $25 billion. So all in, everybody wins. Iran wins, Israel wins, and the United States, most importantly, we win not only just today, but in the future. Suck on that one, Megyn Kelly. And to Tucker Carlson, go see a psychiatrist.
Amen.
And
Amen.
Candace Owens, she needs to see a psychologist like super bad. She was
She needs a padded
calling
room
on
is what she needs.
terrorists to call in so she could talk to them because she's siding with terrorists.
Yeah. I mean, folks, if you are a true America First person, then you understand that sometimes you have to excise the cancer and it's a little bit painful before you can get to the treatment, right? You understand that. You have to.
Well, yeah. So yes, but also if you're a true leftist and you hate organized religion, what the actual fuck are you doing defending the lunatic Muslims and their oppressive Sharia law in Iran? What are you doing? Make that make sense to me.
I'll make it make sense to you if you give me a second.
You don't like Christians, you don't like Jews because you don't like organized religion. Those guys are worse. Why are you defending them? Like way worse.
I'm going to show you why. I'm going to pull this from last episode that we didn't get to. And we may run a little bit over tonight, but I think it's worth it. Let me find it. You guys keep going. I'm going to pull a video that we didn't use. I had it staged, but we didn't use it. I'm going to see if I can find it.
The people that are defending Iran and mad about this have no idea that the Iranian people they love America. Absolutely love it. And they've been raised to love it and to know that it's great. And everyone in Iran is in favor of this. The only people that are not are actual terrorists, you guys. I'm not playing with you. Actual terrorists. The Iranian people are just like we are. Just like we are. They're no different. I have Iranian people in my family. They are no different than we are. They love their country. They want it to be free. They want it to be like it used to be when it was very similar to the United States. And they want to be able to visit home and go back home. And their family that still lives there, they want them to be safe. And the people that are there right now with this going on, they're saying, do not use us and our names to smear America or Israel. We love both places. We respect both places. We asked for Trump to do this. We want this, and we are willing to die for this.
That's right.
We don't have to put boots on the ground. The Iranian people are going to take care of this. There are women making videos saying, we are willing to die for this. We know what is going on. We love Trump. We respect Trump. We love the United States. We love Israel. Do not use us and thinking we are in danger as a way to smear what is happening right now. We are willing to die for this because it's important for our country, the same way we would be willing to die for the United States if heaven forbid the commies took over and we were losing our freedoms and things were going downhill. We would all be willing to die. We would all pick up arms and go stand on the front lines to protect this country and make sure that it was intact for future generations.
That's right. All right. So I'm going to pull this quick video up. I think it's about a minute long. This I think helps to crystallize the relationship between these idiot leftists and the lunatic Islamist.
Extremist, Islamist, I would only vote left.
Why is that?
I saw them as very stupid. I would fear the conservatives because they come with principle. That's not someone they can brainwash. But the left, I know they have no values and no principles to begin with. I dare you to find one Islamic extremist that votes for Donald Trump. They'd give their vote to the leftist who wants to run around in pride parades. And Islamic extremists are against gays and homosexuals and transgenders, but they want the left to go and get busy with that. They want them, go speak about the climate, go speak about abortion, go kill yourselves, go do that.
What is the fundamentalist and jihadi agenda for America?
The future of America has to be Muslim.
There There you go. That's why. Because they're dumb enough to allow themselves to be used by Islamists. That's why. That's why they love them. Because the Islamists are like, yeah, go do all that stuff. Because we're just going to kill you when you're done.
It's not just Islamists. They're used by everybody. Yep. It doesn't matter. You find they've gotten so good. They're so effective at saying that person over there hates you, so you must hate them in everything that they do. Doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter if it's Bush, it's Reagan, it's Trump, it'll be JD. It's already JD. It'll be Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio will be the next Hitler. It won't matter because all they want them to do is oppose, and destroy, and chaos and oppose. That's it.
That's right. That's right.
You can see exactly how they're easily manipulated and used in any way that they want to use them by just looking at their posts or debating with them. There is zero principle. Just like I've said a million times, if you're watching a candidate and they're in a debate and somebody asks a question and they say, well, I can't answer that, or they're requesting questions ahead of time, those people are not principled. They can't stand there and look you in the face and answer a question on the spot based on their principles and their beliefs. And that's what's important. None of these people can do that. They go where the wind blows. They go and they say what they think people want to hear because they don't want to be ostracized or left out of the group.
That's right. All right. We're going to wrap with this and then we'll close. This is what actual principle looks like to you idiot, fake ass America First people, you bot class, you dumb leftists, you blue talkers who are just going where the wind tells you to go. The monetization drags you to, and the money's taking you. But this is what actual principle sounds like. Maybe.
I am an Iranian who lives in Tehran, and I can hear the sound of bombing outside. In case I'm dead tomorrow, I just want you to remember this. Please, shut the fuck up and don't use me against America or Israel to try and convince them to stop. We ask for this. We want this attack. And I know that you don't want to listen to us. You don't want to listen, but I'm going to give you the shorter version of why we want this. The reason is we had one option: to go and protest this bloody regime, and we did, and they killed 40,000 of us in 2 days. This is the last option we have. We asked for the help, and help is here. And I know I might die, and I don't care, because I'm willing to sacrifice my life for Iran. And you, just shut the fuck up and don't use me to attack anyone or try to stop this. We want this. You don't understand. You're not in our shoes, so shut the fuck up. That was a message from one of our Iranian sisters, and she asked me to share this with you. So shut the fuck up. Yeah, if you don't want to support us, just shut the fuck up.
Yes, and again, I challenge somebody to find me an ugly Iranian woman, because I've yet to see one.
That might be one of the reasons why they put bags over their heads.
I joke about that all the time, because it has to be. I don't think I've ever seen an ugly Iranian woman.
The bags are coming off their heads.
Who knew GR Patriot was a female? I didn't.
I didn't. That's cool.
Cool.
Heck yeah. All right, folks. I hope you got something out of this. Just
with your non-binary names. My goodness.
Wait, what? I saw wife and assumed that. Sorry, I wasn't trying to be anti.
Wait, strong woman hero, right. Oh, right there.
Oh, I was like, what?
I can't read. That's
got it.
I kept saying he because he said wife. I just assumed.
My bad.
We actually don't hate LGBTQ people on the right, by the way.
No. All right, folks.
My bad. Get us out of here. I gotta go to bed.
Yeah, I want to close with this. 2 things, very quick. Why Iran? Remember, because they are the agents of chaos that the globalists use to keep the region destabilized. Why now? Because they're the weakest they've ever been. That's the answer. That's all you need to know. They're the weakest they've ever been, and because they got to go. We're out.
In the shadows of the Capitol, they're scheming in the night, selling out our freedoms for a pocket full of spite. From the border to